it's Lisa. Today I have a photo that was taken when I was, I believe, 17 years old. And I know this because I'm still wearing my glasses, which I got contacts when I think I got them when I graduated from high school. And I just turned 18. I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt, so it had to be either in the fall, but the grass and the trees and everything are green, so I'm thinking it's early spring. The reason I know this is because of my weight, and that's really going to be the subject matter of the video. When I was a teenager, I was carrying around some extra weight, and I thought that if I lost a lot of weight, that I would be the real popular kid in school. Didn't quite work that way. I'm glad I lost the weight, but I was probably the skinniest here than I've ever been in my entire life. And honestly, I hope I'm never that skinny again, because I would be probably really ill. I was almost too thin at that age, but nonetheless, that's where I was, and that's what this photo to me is about. The load challenge today is to do to use a photo and to scrap something, a different story than what the photo is really supposed to be about. I don't know what the photo was. It was just a photo that was made at the time. As far as I don't know whether there really was a story. Maybe we had a new camera. I don't know. But anyway, that's what I'm going to tell the story about here. This is my sketch that I'm going to use, and I did a new sketch. It's similar to one I've done in the past, but I have some larger squares for the background, and I'm going to take them all the way to the edge, as opposed to one I had done last year that they formed just more of a square turned on its side. And I'm moving some of the elements around here. There'll be a couple of embellishment groups. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to put in the embellishment group, and that's what we're going to look at first here. I have this piece of simple ivory cardstock to use as a base for my squares of pattern paper. These will be 3-inch squares, and I'm going to be working with the Homespun collection. This is new paper to me, and I picked it because it matched my shirt, not just because it's new and I had to use it. That has something to do with it too. There's some cute things in here, the floral, and there's the check and the little hearts and so forth. So I'll pick a bunch of those out and cut those into 3-inch squares. Also, this collection, I bought some embellishments. I have the chipboard, and most of this has to do with home and family and stuff, but there is a big ampersand that's going to be part of my title, and I may use the flowers or something else. I haven't decided for sure. What I wanted to look at, though, was I had stored this collection along with Bo Bunny's Modern Mists, because the colors were similar, and the Modern Mists die cuts would work with the homespun, some of the simpler homespun papers. I want to go through this and see which die cuts in here I think would apply to my photo and my story for that time period. Things like this little lipstick and stuff I really never thought I would use, but that might be applicable. So I'm just going to pull out anything that I think might work. And I'm not going to use any of the papers from that collection. I'm going to use the homespun papers. So let's do that first, and then we'll start cutting up some papers. Just going through the Noteworthy pack, and I found some glasses, which is relevant to our topic. Maybe the little lipstick, and I decided that really wasn't quite on topic. There's a lot of photo-related things here, but most of them relate to film. There are some Polaroid frames, but I don't feel like I really need to frame my Polaroid since it's the authentic thing, which I have scanned it, so I won't lose that if anything happens to it. I did pull out a little scallop border there that I can use kind of as a shelf. And right now I'm not finding other things, but I may come back to this. Now I want to work on my grid, and I'm going to have to change my sketch right off the bat, because I designed the sketch so that the little diamonds would be right down the middle, but that doesn't leave me a line to go by. And the way I prefer to do these is to have a diagonal line that goes from corner to corner on the paper. So I'm going to sort of shift the grid over. I had to switch pens here. The Stampin' Up! Pen just didn't mark on that particular kind of cardstock. It wasn't Stampin' Up! Cardstock. Anyway, I'm using an old Zig marker. And I don't mind that it's a blue color, because that's the color in the papers, and if any of it shows, it'll still match. That's why I chose to use it rather than a pencil to mark my lines. I did a diagonal line, and then I measured 3 inches over, since all my squares were 3 inches. It's a good size to work with a 6x6 paper pad. 2x2 squares work well too. I just didn't want to have so many. Makes the page go a little faster. So I drew lines every 3 inches going diagonally one direction on the paper, and now I'm doing the other direction. And once I get all those in place, then I will start putting the papers on. And I know from the past experience of doing this kind of thing where I have a busy or an active background, and then I place everything and then I cover it up with my photo, I end up covering up some paper I really like. So I put the photo down straight away. I did end up, though, covering those cute little hearts up there at the bottom with some of the journaling and other things. I didn't realize it till it was all glued down, but it still comes out nicely. And I'm just moving stuff around, deciding on the order so I don't have 2 squares too close to one another. I'm going to need to cut a little bit more and have something to go around the edges. I'm not doing every single edge, but a few of them. Got my title on here. I used some really skinny letters for the word skinny, and they don't match, but that was the whole point, was to have skinny letters. They're just black letters, so they'll go fine with the blue. I have a few of the die cuts out, some hearts and that little key. And I printed my journaling on one of the pages from the 6x6 album. The only problem with it is it's really long. It ended up being a lot bigger than I expected it to come out. And so I could move it up there next to the photo, but that leaves me with a lot of space at the bottom to try to figure out what to do with. So I'm just going to move everything up. And I don't mind that it goes all the way to the bottom. I am going to need something to sort of ground the other embellishments. I have this chipboard piece that I could put on there, maybe put something over the top of it because it says something about home, and that's not really relevant. There's another die cut from the Noteworthy pack, but it's just awfully big. It's too big next to that, or across from that photo. It kind of takes over. I initially picked the key because this photo was taken at my grandmother's house, and that's the kind of key she had, but I think key is more relevant to what was going on in my life at that time. I noticed, though, that my photo is facing to the right, and I really should have had all this stuff on the left, so I'm looking towards the middle of the page. That's not going to happen at this point. I don't want to move everything. So I'm just making some final placements here, moving everything over to the side, and now I'm going to start gluing these squares down, and I'll cut a lot of this out of the video, but I glue from the bottom of the page up, so that way I don't bump them with my hands as I move up the page. I'll take it to the paper trimmer and trim down the edges. Got a little bit more there that didn't get glued down, and most of those blue lines get covered up. I think there was one place that you saw the blue lines, so that seemed to work pretty well. Again, putting things back so that I can start or glue down the last layers here. Figuring out which heart is going to go where. Those were out of that Simple Stories chipboard that matched the Homespun collection. I really wanted to put this on with the photo on with dimensionals, but then the letters wouldn't lay right. So I'm very carefully using glue dots. I understand you don't want to damage a Polaroid as far as tearing it because it just ruins the picture. And I did scan this on my computer, so I have another version of it, but I still wanted to really use the original. So I'm very carefully using glue dots and getting it lined up straight on the paper, and then everything else can just be glued on from there. For my embellishment group, I found this Remember When die cut in that Noteworthy pack, and that's going to be a good one to ground the elements. Adding a little distress ink to kind of finish off the edges of that, make it look a little bit more finished. And I also had a cameo in that, the girl's picture on it, so I thought that went. Or a picture from my youth. And then some little hearts. And there's my key. Thinking that weight loss was the key to everything. It wasn't, but it was a good thing to do. I got a little carried away with it, but then again, I went to college, and so some of the weight came back on. And over the years, more of it came back on. So anyway, all right, I need some trim up there, and I need something under that heart. And I'm looking through some of my red ribbons, but they're just a little bit too much. So I'm going to have to keep looking, and we'll come back here with the completed page. Here's our page all done. To finish this off, I went to my favorite trim. I tried a couple of things and couldn't find anything. This is from, or was from Stampin' Up. They don't have it anymore. It's been discontinued for several years, but I just love it. It's my favorite little trim. And I have it in 2 or 3 colors, but I've used the yellow the most. I went ahead and added the key, the date, a couple of hearts. And then over here, to finish this off, I had another die cut that matched this one. And then I just took a piece of paper from the paper pad that it had some words on it, but I covered the words up since they weren't really relevant to what I was showing here. And that finishes up the page. So we followed the sketch pretty closely. I don't have the date, well, I have the date on here. I don't have the place. This was made at my grandmother's house. It's where the picture was made. But I have the, the story that relates to it. Now that I think about it, this might have even been my 18th birthday. If it was in the spring, I don't know if all the leaves would have been on the trees that late. It could have even, I could be 18 instead of 17, but that's when I remember that was the age that I lost weight, and that's what the story's about. So that's where we're going with. So that's how I adjusted the photo that was probably made not just to show off that I'd lost weight, but for some other reason. So anyway, that's the story. There's more about that on my blog and also the sketch. So thank you so much for watching.